The following podcast is for mature listeners. Although looked at in a light-hearted manner, some content may be graphic or gruesome. Also, due to the host's complete lack of maturity, those easily offended will probably be offended. Hold on to your butts.
Alcohol in the house.
I'm Paul. This is Jake. This is The Depths with Paul and Jake.
Live and coming at you.
Well, it's not live. It's a podcast.
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of pre-recorded, but still coming at you.
It's live for us.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Jake, in 1851, Western Massachusetts, there was a fucking problem.
Oh, was it some bad bitches? Because I love bad bitches, and that's my fucking problem.
Not this time. Not this time.
I'm
sure they had a problem. I'm sure they had a problem with bad bitches, but this was, Jake, stay with me. The Springfield Terminal Railway wanted to run some new tracks, and somebody put a mountain in their way.
This is monorail? Is this an episode of The Simpsons? Are everybody going to start singing and dancing, talking about a monorail?
No, Jake, this is a real train.
Oh.
A real caboose.
Ooh, I'm all about the caboose.
So yeah, these people, the Springfield Terminal Railway wanted to build a new train track, and somebody put a mountain right where they wanted to go. Okay.
So what are they going to do about it? What the problem is? We're going to dig through it?
Well, here's... Okay, so it wasn't really a mountain. It was a hill, technically. It was...
and this is strictly semantics.
The Berkshire Hills, to be exact, which it's actually an extension of the Vermont Green Mountains, so kind of a mountain.
Not to be confused with Turkey Hill, because that is a delicious ice cream.
That's a mountain of ice cream.
Oh, man. I want to get in on that.
Yeah. So, Jake, I don't know where your... I don't know where the extent of your mountain knowledge lies, but if you don't know anything about mountains... one thing to know is they're tough to move.
Yeah, one could surmise that, yes.
So instead, the plan was to, of course, bore a tunnel straight through the mountain.
Yeah.
Which, Jake, also is not an easy thing to do.
Okay.
Especially in 1851.
Ooh, yeah. We are dated a bit.
Yeah, so 1851... the technology wasn't quite there to get these things done in orderly fashion, so this project, all in all, would end up taking almost 25 years and $2 million to complete. By the way, $2 million in 1851 is roughly $400 million in
Jesus
today monies.
Current doubloons, yes.
Yes.
Shekels.
The current Trump bucks that we use.
Ooh, yes. Trump bucks.
There is an upside. There's a positive to all of this.
Okay, so far, it's not sounding that great.
These men were in luck, Jake, because 14 years into the project...
14 years? What are they working on, 141?
14 years into the project, a new explosive would be introduced to America.
Oh, fuck yeah. People are going to... Is this nitroglycerin?
Nitroglycerin, very good.
Oh, I'm on top of the world right now, Daddy.
Yeah, man. I knew you were a 49ers fan. I didn't know you were also a mountain man.
I know a little bit about explosives.
Yeah, so this actually would be the first commercial project that got to use sweet nitroglycerin.
Oh, man. Very volatile, though. Very volatile.
Very, yes, indeed. So, being the first commercial project that was able to use this new wonder drug.
It's a drug now.
Well, I don't know. You could probably shoot it up. Probably fuck you up.
Yeah. Yep, that's one.
There were a few hiccups.
Head rush you will probably not live through.
No, wait, what? I don't even know. Like, what's the consistency of nitroglycerin?
I know
it's like a powder, right?
I thought it was a liquid.
Is it a liquid?
I remember seeing all those like old timey like Tom and Jerry cartoons, and every time I saw like nitroglycerin, it was like in a liquid form, and they're all like, "Oh, don't drop it," and it would always be like in like a vial. And
fuck it then, light it up. Let's smoke some.
Yo, you smoking nitroglycerin? This shit's out of this world.
You're out of this world if
Yeah.
you're smoking nitroglycerin.
Stratosphere, baby.
There were a few hiccups along the way with
don't say.
nitro. Yeah. So let's get right into things here. On March 20th, 1865, 3 explosives experts, and I'm doing air quotes when I say experts because
I can picture you doing that because at that time period, there probably wasn't really an expert in anything.
I mean, we just got nitroglycerin. How can you be an expert in some shit that just showed up?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Ned Berkman, Billy Nash, and Ringo Kelly were certified experts.
Ringo Kelly.
That name.
Not to be confused with the drummer. The drummer of a really bad band.
The drummer
of the Beatles.
Did you say really bad band?
Yeah, I'm not a Beatles fan.
Wow, Jake, man.
I know.
I'm learning a lot about you.
I know. You're learning so much.
No, but this Ringo Kelly was actually the drummer of the Beatles also.
Oh, time traveling. No big deal.
Later in life, you know?
Oh, yes.
But they went into the tunnel, and after setting the charge, all 3 men sprinted back to the bunker that was designed to shield them from the blast. And to be fair, the shield did its job. It prevented any damage from the blast, but only to Ringo Kelly because he, for some reason, accidentally sent the charge off early, burying Nash and Brinkman alive under rubble.
Yes! Yes!
So Ringo Kelly is the only surviving member of the explosive Beatles.
Yeah.
So as you might imagine, Kelly, he appeared to be devastated by his mistake. It takes a real hit to the ego for an explosives expert to bury his 2 friends.
Well, yeah, considering 2 of his buddies are now buried alive, and you're considered an expert. But I mean, I get it.
I think maybe you're gonna lose some work in the future.
Doesn't look good on a resume.
No, but questions began to bubble up. Questions as to whether or not Kelly really was friends with his coworkers, because shortly after the incident, Ringo Kelly disappeared. He vanished.
Okay,
and this led people to become suspicious of the whole situation. Right?
Okay.
I mean, many people suspected that there were like underlying issues between the 3 workmates, and the murder, the big M word popped up. You know, maybe it was a murder,
not a muck duck. It's a murder.
A murder. So superstitions were a big deal back then. I mean, you think people were superstitious now? In the 1800s, people were fucking superstitious.
Absolutely.
And construction slowed to almost a halt because tunnel workers refused to go back into the tunnels.
Well, they're already 14 years deep. Why not take?
I know.
Why not take another sabbatical?
Yeah, and now things are slowing down. Many of the crew even decided to just walk off the job. They weren't into the Deadly Tunnel.
Ooh, is that what his name was? The Deadly Tunnel?
No, actually, this tunnel will eventually gain the nickname the Bloody Pit, but we'll get there.
Ooh.
We're going to fast forward a little bit, Jake. We're going to move ahead to 1898, okay?
So we're like 31 years ahead.
Well, when did I say this happened? This was in 1865. Yeah, we're in 1898 now.
Yeah, like about 30 years.
Wait a second. That can't be right, dude. I mixed my dates up there. That's not right.
Fucker.
It's a couple years in the future. It's definitely not 1898. That wouldn't make sense. So, anyway, wherever we are in time, many of the workers were still complaining when they were working down in the tunnel. And they were complaining.
I mean, it would make sense if it was 30 years, considering construction timetables back then as compared to now. So,
well, no, because so the construction for this whole project took 25 years.
Okay.
And that incident was 14 years in. So somewhere I mixed my dates up here, but it's not a big deal. We're not going to hang up on dates here.
Yeah.
You're not here to learn.
No.
You're here to get creeped out.
We're here for the chuckles and to be kind of grossed out.
Yeah. So many workers were still complaining that when they were in the tunnels, they would hear a man's voice crying out in agony.
Okay.
Sick of these complaints, a member of the construction company named Mr. Dunn sent a letter to another man by the name of Paul Travers. Travers was a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
He was a former cavalry officer in the Civil War, and he was very, very respected in the construction industry. So, Mr. Dunn thinks, I'll get Travers on the case.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Travers. We'll send him into the tunnel. He'll tell these fucking idiots that there's no ghosts in the tunnel, and everything's going to be fine. Right?
Okay.
Dunn had been telling his workers for months that the sounds they were hearing were nothing more than the wind just whipping along the sides of the mountain.
Yeah, but quit being a bitch and get in there and get that work done.
Yeah, I mean, you could see how wind on the side of a mountain would sound like a man screaming in agony.
Of course. I mean, it happens all the time.
So, on September 8th of a year, Dunn met with Travers, and together they walked into the tunnel, okay?
All right. All right.
Shortly after this, Travers sent a letter to his sister, and the letter said, quote, this is what he's saying to his sister, Dunn and I entered the tunnel at exactly 9 p.m. We traveled about 2 miles into the shaft, and then we stopped to listen.
Ooh,
As we stood there in the cold silence, we both heard what truly sounded like a man groaning out in pain. As you know, I've heard this same sound many times during the war, yet when we turned our lamps up, Yet when we turned up the wicks on our lamp, there were no other human beings in the shaft except for Mr. Dunn and myself. I'll admit, I haven't been this frightened since Silo. I guess that was some kind of battle in the Civil War.
Okay.
Mr. Dunn agreed that it definitely was not the wind that we had heard. Perhaps Nash and Brinkman? I wonder. Ooh. End quote. So, Travers definitely heard something that he couldn't explain in the tunnel. There's some shit going on in this tunnel that wasn't worker friendly. I don't think it met OSHA qualifications.
Nobody was wearing steel-toed boots. Nobody was wearing protective eyewear.
There's fucking nitroglycerin just everywhere.
Just hanging out. You know, you sneeze the wrong way.
Puddles of it.
You're blowing your leg off. No big deal.
Despite Dunn finally being convinced that there was more going on in the tunnel than just wind, construction continued. And just over a month later, tragedy would strike again. This time, it would be the biggest tragedy in the history of the Hoosac Tunnel. That's what it is called, by the way. The Hoosac Tunnel is what it is now referred to. Okay, so in the 1800s, I guess the way they decided they were going to tackle drilling a hole straight through this mountain, Jake, was they made 2 entrances into the tunnel, one on either side of the mountain, right?
Okay.
And then they dug straight down from the top of the mountain.
Did they try
so I guess the idea was to kind of like come in from the sides.
Okay.
What's up?
No, I'm just trying to figure out if they're trying to do some sort of like almost like a triangulation with like get like some sort of airflow from each side and from the top or something like that.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think the idea was come in from either side, the entrance and the exit of the tunnel, and then also drill straight down in the middle. And that way you can have crews working towards either exit. You know what I mean? From the center.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I guess to speed things up, maybe. So that pit in the center of the mountain, from the top of the mountain down to the tunnel they were boring out on October 17th, 1868. A gas leak filled the water pumping station that was at the top of that central pit. And it exploded. And
Shocker.
the pumping station blew to pieces. The shaft filled with debris and rocks.
Debris.
And the worst part is there were people down there working. So all in all, 13 miners were killed as the rocks and the pieces of pumping station fell down this giant hole.
Killed or trapped alive?
Well, killed. Eventually, in the end, they were killed. So
as I say, there's no really way that you could actually determine that. So
they
13 more people died.
Yeah, so they sent a guy down. They sent a miner into the tunnel to look for signs of survivors.
Okay.
He quickly had to be pulled back to the surface due to like the overwhelming fumes that were filling the tunnel up.
Okay.
Once he was pulled out, he kind of gasped out the words "no hope" before he passed out. So,
shit.
Yeah, they kind of that was kind of it for the search efforts because this guy was pretty positive that there was definitely nobody down there. So, without a pumping station, without a water pumping station operational at the top of the pit, over the next few days, it filled with water. As it filled with water, bodies started to float to the surface.
Oh my God.
This is how most of the miners were recovered.
Straight up nightmare fuel, man.
Yeah, man. And so over this course of time where no one was able to get into the tunnel because of the disaster and these fucking miners are floating to the surface, many people that were living in the area around the mountain started reporting seeing shapes that looked like miners carrying pickaxes and shovels, like walking along the tops of the mountain at night. And they also reported, like, all throughout the area at nighttime, you could hear what sounded like muffled screams echoing from the mountains.
It's not like good old-fashioned work songs?
No Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah, that's literally the first thing that popped into my head. Yeah, I was like...
No, this is a little more scary. The scariest part is eventually workers were able to get the pumping station operational again and get the water out of there. And when they re-entered the tunnel, to their horror, they found the remnants of what looked like little camps and makeshift rafts. So...
Wait.
The miners...
So there was like... They found like... It wasn't like ghost stuff. This is like real stuff that they found?
Yes. So the screams, the muffled screams, possibly... Maybe they were ghosts. I mean, it could have been ghost screams, but... I mean... The miners were not immediately killed. Yeah, so unfortunately, some of these miners had survived the explosion,
and everybody was sure that it wasn't like a weird bum orgy, right?
I mean, I don't know how the bums would get in the tunnel before the workers would be able to.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
When they when workers go home at the end of the day, like bums are like, shit, this is a free place to stay. And then, they get in there and they start going to town on each other to keep each other warm. It's like a soup kitchen. Isn't that what it's called when a bunch of bums go at each other?
Is that what that yeah, is that just a lot of sex stuff?
Yeah, a lot of sexy bum stuff called a soup kitchen.
Can you imagine the smell?
Ugh. Just, yeah.
It probably smells like soup. You ever, like the smell of chicken noodle soup when you open that can?
Thank you.
And you're like, how the fuck am I going to eat this?
And then you heat it up and you're like,
so bad.
It's delicious.
Yeah, well, sometimes.
I agree.
So yeah, these miners, I guess a bunch of them had survived and, spent their last days trapped in a cold, dark mine that was slowly filling with water. So it's a great way to kind of go out, right?
It's fucking awful. Because if you're,
can you imagine?
You're claustrophobic, that is literally a claustrophobic's worst nightmare. To be
and you
trapped
just see
in a
the
small
water
space and then to drown.
Slowly rising, and you're fucking trying to get anything you can to pop a raft together just to try and float to the surface.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, so sightings and strange phenomenons continued over the construction of the Hoosac Tunnel. In June of 1872, Dr. Clifford Owen took a trip into the tunnel with a drilling operations superintendent by the name of James McKinstry. Once they got about 2 miles into the tunnel, they stopped for a rest. And as they were resting, they were interrupted. No, not this time. This is more creepy stuff. As they were chilling out, having a little conversation, a little picnic in the mines, they were interrupted by the sounds of someone moaning in great pain. Again, the moans of great pain coming back into it.
That's what I'm thinking.
You think that there's just bums down here?
Just bums just getting after it.
This could explain... Bums getting after it could probably explain a lot of paranormal activity.
I think we might have cracked the case here.
If you really want to dig deep, I think you have to get some different instruments to detect these bums. I don't think you can do it with the little like scanners that pick up the
Well, no, you
noise
gotta
frequencies.
coax them out of their bum holes with like $1 on a string, or like perhaps like a wedge of cheese, or like something that's like, hey, I'm gonna give you like a home and a job.
They don't want that.
No, they don't. Really
They don't want that. They don't want a home and a job.
Give
They
me a
want the
beer,
dollars.
bitch. Like that's what.
Give me a beer. So the tunnel was completely dark aside from these two guys' lamps, right?
Uh-huh.
And as they rested, they saw this faint light coming towards them from inside the tunnel, right?
Ooh.
And they assumed, I mean, I guess they didn't know if people were working in there at the time or not. So they assumed this was a worker who had descended into the central shaft and was kind of carrying a lantern towards them.
Yeah.
Owen says that the dim light was heading towards them in a westerly direction, and as it grew closer to the two men, it began to take on a strange blue hue. Eventually, this light,
Jesus,
Jake,
is that you?
turned
Jesus, is that
Jesus, he's back again.
I know. With the
No, but
resurrection.
it eventually took the form of a headless human being.
Oh
this light.
fuck!
Yeah.
God damn it!
The light continued to move closer to the men. It got so close that Owen said that the two men could have reached out and touched the headless body. It stood there. This headless ghost light stood watching the men, and then hovered off toward the east end of the tunnel and vanished. Owens later went on to write about this incident, quote, Above all, I'm a realist and not prone to repeating gossip and wild tales that defy a reasonable explanation. But he was unable to deny what he and James McKinstry witnessed with their own eyes that day. So he stood by what he said. He saw a headless ghost hanging out in the tunnels.
That's pretty fucking wild.
Yeah, and it gets a little stranger. So in 1874, we keep moving here a little later.
Like
a little
6 years
later.
later, okay.
Frank, your math is right there. Frank Webster, a local hunter. He was found bloody and beaten, deliriously walking along the banks of the Deerfield River, which runs right alongside the mountains.
Because he made that stupid dictionary.
Webster's Dictionary.
Yeah. Look at that little play on words. Got his ass beat. Fuck you and your fancy ass words.
You think it was the Oxford guys that got him?
Yeah. Yeah. Encyclopedia Britannica forever, bitch.
When the rescuers found Webster, they asked him what had happened, and he explained that a strange voice had called him into the Hoosac Tunnel. Once he got inside, he said invisible hands wrestled his rifle away from him and beat him with it.
Hobos.
He said that he didn't remember ever leaving the tunnel and had no idea how he ended up on the riverbank.
Dude, that's all. That was a classic bum shakedown. He went into the tunnel.
Invisible bums. I think that you might be onto something.
I'm on.
I think
I'm
that,
here.
Now,
I'm on to it.
I don't. They would have had to have been really, really
Sneaky.
good at tunneling, because remember, after the explosion, the pit was full of rocks and debris. And
Holy shit,
you're
Paul. Mole people.
if you're saying that somehow,
Mole
What?
people. That's what this
The mole
is.
people.
It's mole people. It's homeless
This-
mole people.
did this just turn into a different episode? Are we doing an
I don't
episode on
know.
mole
I don't
people
know.
now?
We're not doing a crossover yet, but
I haven't done any research on mole people.
that would explain some shit. Digging tunnels, popping out, having some sort of weird mole person gangbang, and then beating people to death.
Taking their guns.
They
never found his rifle.
Yep.
So they're mole people with rifles now.
This is
What do you think's scarier? What do you think? Go ahead.
I was to say that was the beginning of the revolution. Mole people will rise.
What are they waiting for? They still have one. They were just still waiting. They don't have enough guns.
Well, they can't see good because they're not used to sunlight, so they're just waiting to pick the right time.
Nighttime,
Nighttime. That's obviously the best. Time.
preferably. What do you think's scarier, mole people or lizard people? Also, what do you think there's a better chance of actually existing?
Mole people. Yeah.
Really? Did you see the video, though? Did you see the video
I haven't
of
seen
Miley Cyrus where her eyes blink sideways?
Oh, what?
Yeah, there's a video of Miley Cyrus. I'm fairly certain it wasn't doctored. You know, why would somebody doctor something like that?
What, like an iguana?
But yeah, like she's doing an interview and her pupils blink sideways like a lizard would. Yeah, man, it's out there. You got to look it up. And again, it's on the internet.
I'm gonna be up until
it's on the internet. I can't imagine why anybody would doctor it. But dude, do you know about like the lizard people? We're getting off track here.
We are getting off track. We're gonna get back
lizard
to the
people. Like that's a major
1868 or whatever it is.
Right, but the lizard people is like a major conspiracy theory. People seriously think that these lizard people are
And I'm a conspiracy
controlling...
theorist. I'm actually a little ashamed of myself that I don't know more about this.
You should look into it.
I am
They claim that they're controlling the most politicians are lizard people. The media is being controlled by lizard people. Like, I don't know, man. It's there.
It's like they live. That's what that is.
There's meat.
That's what this is.
Yeah, there's meat on the bones there for a future episode. We're gonna have a mole people episode, a lizard people episode, a fucking pig people episode.
Pig
we're gonna
people.
Just all.
How
We're gonna
dare
just get
you
all the
attack
animals.
my race?
We're just gonna get all the animals and pop people on it, and we're gonna look into it.
All right. Let's get back on track with Bum Fight 16.
Okay, well this time we're fast forwarding again to 1970, right? So in the 1970s, a guy named Joe Impoko was working for the Boston and Maine rail line. And he says that he was saved by a ghostly voice, not once, but twice inside the Hoosac Tunnel. The first instance was a day he was inside the tunnel chipping away ice from the frozen tracks. As he's chipping it away, he hears a voice from inside the tunnel yell, "Run, Joe, run!" He turns around just in time to see a train barreling down on him and barely gets out with his life. Right? 6 weeks later,
that's a scene from
Impoko's
Ghostbusters.
in the
That's a scene from
tunnels again.
Ghostbusters.
Now,
Okay.
hold on. Let me just say this.
Yeah.
This Impoko guy, I don't know anything about him. He could be a fucking drunk. This could have been, one of his coworkers just yelling shit from inside the tunnel, but that's not the story that I looked up. It was a ghostly voice from inside the tunnel.
Yeah.
6 weeks later, he's working in the tunnels. This time he's trying to pry a freight car wheel that had been frozen to the track with a big iron crowbar.
Yeah, pry bar. Yeah,
And again, he says the exact same voice from inside the tunnel says, "Joe, drop it, Joe." And no sooner did he take his hands off the crowbar that it was jolted against the wall of the tunnel with like a big burst of sparks. Apparently what had happened was a power line that was over the freight car short-circuited and sent 11,000 volts of electricity through the
Holy
train
shit.
car into the crowbar. Impoko was convinced that something in that tunnel was looking out for him, and even after he stopped working for the rail line, once a year he would return to the tunnel to kind of pay homage to his ghostly friend for saving his life.
So this kind of raises like a moral question then. If you, because you got to think about it, like a guy walked in there, got his ass beat, and got his rifle stolen. Meanwhile, this guy, probably about 100 years later, went into this tunnel, and they're like, "Hey, man,
almost exactly,
I'm going to save your life." So is this tunnel like the spiritual beings that live in there, the dead homeless people that bang each other in there? Are they like a judge of character?
So it's either dead homeless people. I mean, they're dead by now.
Yeah.
The mole people, who I think have a couple 100-year lifespan. Or it's the miners who got killed spirits. And remember, 13 people died, plus Brinkman and whatever the hell the other guy's name was.
We got about a little bit over a baker's dozen here.
So these could be different spirits. I don't know how that works. I'd assume...
It's true.
I'd assume if there's a bunch of spirits in there, they're all going to have different... consciences, you know what I mean? Different morals that they live by.
Okay.
Some of them might just be fucking bitter that their boy Ringo Kelly betrayed them and blew their fucking heads off. And other ones might be like, cool.
Well, yeah, just like, hey man, it's cool. Like, whatever, I died. Like, I don't want you to die.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the other one's like, yo, give me
this
that
sucks.
cash.
You don't want to be stuck in this fucking tunnel forever. It's dark.
Yeah, get the fuck
fucking
outta here.
moles all over the place.
Stuck in here
Okay, so later on,
laying on top of other homeless people.
and the fucking smell is unbearable. Later on, in 1973, a man by the name of Bernard Hastabad decided that what he wanted to do is he wanted to walk the entire length of the tunnel. He entered the Hoosac Tunnel and never emerged. He was never seen or heard from ever again.
Why would
he completely vanished?
Why would anyone
I don't know.
do that?
I have no idea. After you read all these fucking stories, after you listen to our podcast and we tell you that all this creepy mole shit's happening inside the tunnel, why on earth Bernard Hastabad would you want to go in the fucking tunnel?
That's what I'm saying.
The crazier thing is that people do this all the time. It's like a popular paranormal outing. People will get groups together and walk through the tunnel. I mean, I guess if you're with a group, it's a little better. But Bernard, I mean, what are you going in there by yourself for?
Yeah, like I'd be doing that shit broad daylight, high noon. That way I know I can see everything. But it's like, oh, hey, I'm doing this at 10 o'clock at night. Like, no wonder you didn't. No wonder you died.
Well, Jake, it's a tunnel. You're not going to see. I mean, it doesn't matter what time you go in. It's going to be fucking dark.
It's true. It's true. So, all right. So, did my man Bernard, no one found his body? Nothing?
No, he's gone. He's gone. He walked into a fucking tunnel where at least one ghost has a gun. We know one of them has a gun. And then he's never been seen from again.
We weren't prepared for this. Ghosts with guns. That sounds like a bad sci-fi movie.
You don't expect it. All in all, over the construction of the Hoosac Tunnel, 200 people would die.
Holy shit!
Yeah, right. The people that we talked about were just like the notable deaths. 200 people lost their lives.
200?
Yeah. 200 people lost their lives in the construction of this tunnel, eventually earning the nickname the Bloody Pit.
See, but like back in like the 1800s, like it was not, I'm not going to say common, but like there's like a 15% chance that you'll die at your job.
Well, yeah, I mean, these guys, you know, they're
especially considering
out of their
their
lunchboxes
job.
on rafters and shit.
Yeah, like when you work on like buildings and hang off scaffoldings and shit like that back in like the late 1800s, yeah, there's a percentage of a chance that you're going to die. Like right now, I go to
even
work every
today,
day.
Even today, being a miner is like one of the most dangerous jobs you can have. Like people fucking die all the time mining.
Don't say that to iceberg truckers.
This is before OSHA. You know what I mean? There were no fucking regulations.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Nobody gave a good goddamn. There'd be dudes in there in flip-flops.
Yeah, you got 3 guys who put a fucking pre-order down on some nitroglycerin, and they've had it a week longer than everybody else, so all of a sudden they're experts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're getting the exclusive DLC on the fucking nitroglycerin. So they're the fucking...
Different shades of green,
the
bitch.
Yeah. So yeah, it got the nickname the Bloody Pit, but... in actuality, the name Hoosac Tunnel is also pretty fitting because the tunnel is named for the Hoosac Mountain Range, which is where the Mohawk Indians lived. And they actually named the area the Hoosac Mountain Range. And in their language, Hoosac meant forbidden. So maybe this whole thing could just be an Indian curse.
This is... all right, so maybe the Indians were taking people out. Because they're like...
they were still around, right?
That's what I'm saying. You're like, hey, you're on our land. You're fucking doing some shit that we don't want you doing. You got all these bums in here doing weird stuff. You got mole people involved. Like,
there's moles everywhere.
Maybe they were like sniping dudes with tomahawks.
They're ripping our fucking trash cans apart, trying to get old chicken and stuff. Like trash bags everywhere.
Sucking on chicken bones and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, that's possible because, like... you know, Native Americans have very strong convictions when it comes to their land. So, I mean...
dude, even if it wasn't, like, actual Native Americans in there fucking beating up hunters and stealing their rifles and leaving them in bloody heaps, like, even if this is just a Native American curse, you know that Native Americans have the strongest curse game.
Yeah, their curse game is 100%. Like, never fuck with a Native American curse. Indian burial grounds, get the fuck out.
Who's got a stronger curse game?
Nobody.
Maybe people from Louisiana. Maybe.
That's all that voodoo shit with shrunken heads and whatnot. Native Americans, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna build something on top of our burial ground, it's a wrap for you and everyone that's involved.
Yep. Find a new job, because if you go into this fucking tunnel...
you go in one time, it's gonna follow you.
You took our land, and now you're gonna dig a hole through our fucking mountains?
Get the fuck
you know what
out.
I mean?
Yeah, you're dead, dude.
You deserve a
weird
curse.
Shit gonna happen to you.
these 200 people deserve to die. I'm not gonna say. I can't say that.
Jesus
That's not true.
Christ.
These were lovely. These were lovely people. These were lovely people.
They sacrificed their lives.
Yeah, except I mean, some of them probably sucked. The ones that are stealing people's guns and shit in the afterlife, they sucked.
Bunch of thieves.
So that's pretty much it for the Hoosac Tunnel. There was one more thing. Remember that dude, Ringo Kelly?
Yeah.
The one that...
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, whatever happened to that dude?
They found him. They did find him. They found him about a year later in 1866. It was almost exactly a year after he blew up his two friends. He was found 2 miles inside the Hoosac Tunnel, almost exactly at the spot where the accident happened, and he had been strangled to death.
What?
Yeah. So...
fuck. That did not see that coming.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little weird, huh?
Holy shit, strangled to death.
Strangled to death. They never found a killer. They never... I mean... The dude disappears for a year, and the next time they see him, he's strangled to death in the spot where he accidentally killed his two coworkers.
Two of his buddies. Dude, he got a ghost killed him.
He got ghost fucked.
He got ghost fucked. That's exactly what happened.
Yep.
Literally and figurative, probably.
Exactly.
Holy titty fucking Christ.
Yeah, that's the cherry on top right there, man. So that is the story of the Hoosac Tunnel, otherwise known as the Bloody Pit.
I knew absolutely nothing about that.
It's
I
pretty wild
vaguely
shit,
heard of the mountains. Like when you first...
You've heard of mountains?
I mean, I've heard of them, yeah. I've studied geography.
I've been around the block a time or two.
I've been around the block a little time or two, you know what I'm saying? But like when you mentioned that mountain range, it sounded familiar, but I knew nothing of the Hackensack Tunnel.
The Hackensack Tunnel.
Yeah, the Hoobastank Tunnel.
It's pretty wild shit, man. It's pretty wild shit. Hey, if you're listening to this and you want to rate and review our podcast, that would be awesome.
That'd be super
you
tight.
could do that. You could do that. This is Jake
Weitzenecker.
This is Jake Weitzenecker, and you can follow him on Instagram at Jake Lotz. I'm Paul Breeden. I'm at Breeden on Instagram, and you can follow the podcast at the Depthscast on Instagram and Twitter. Or, you can go to www.thedepthspodcast.com, and it'll have all your needs and greeds.
Yeah, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube.
Yeah, we're on a lot of shit. Like anywhere you can get a podcast, you can download this episode. So your friends have no excuses not to listen.
Yeah, I don't want to hear no bullshit.
Me either. All right, Jake. That's an episode.
Yep. Great to
All right, man.